and welcome to the FNO show on Bloomberg Quint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. I am Agam Vakil. Let's take a look at how the markets are faring at this point. And well, we have seen the indices give up at least some of their gains. And even though they are currently trending higher, and that of course will be a positive considering the kind of loss and decline that we've seen in the indices, this certainly will be taken with both hands. The open interest has not increased as much on the Nifty futures as you can see on your screen. That's 2.5% increase. Coming down to the Nifty banking futures, again we're seeing about 4.7% increase in OI there, a little more income coming, but I would be hesitant to suggest if these were actually longs, if at all. Of course, I will put this question with our experts first. But moving on to your VIX, and that's been sticky around 16.5 now. That hasn't moved too much, but we must also remember that it has also moved up quite substantially and very quickly from the levels of 11, 12 in the past couple of weeks. As far as your open interest in various options is concerned, this is your 8th August open interest distribution where you do have max OI around the 11,000 call, and on the lower end it is the 11,800 put. And moving on to your change in distribution, where we are seeing a little more traction today. Naturally, given the fact that the Nifty is advancing, there has been a little more writing around the 10,800 and 10,900 puts. So we'll be watching out for these levels as we move into trade. But on the whole, that's how the indices have been panning out. Let's also take a look at all the stocks which is actually seeing a surge in open interest. And we can actually, of course, Berger Paints is towards the positive considering it is reacting to earnings, as is the case for SRF. And we'll be talking about that in just a bit. Torrent Power, Interglobe Aviation is under pressure, and we have something from the management too, and of course Max Financial. So all these companies are looking at a significant increase in open interest. In terms of stocks which are seeing unwinding, let's pull that up as well. We don't have too much going on there. In fact, nothing really stands out, and there's easily in a sharp movement there. So there you have it. Those are just some of the stocks that we will be keeping an eye on. Among other stocks that we want to address in today's show is, of course, Berger Paints. We've seen steady earnings, and which is why we're seeing advance in its underlying, as is the case for SRF, which is also seeing an 11% increase when it comes to its stock price itself. And Interglobe Aviation, of course, which is under pressure. And we'll talk about the latest clarifications from one of its co-promoters as well. But it's currently under pressure and it's trading below its 100-daily moving average. So we'll be addressing that as well. But on that note, let me get in our experts. But before that, here's a reminder. If you have any queries regarding futures and options markets, you can call us on 022-454-04141. And of course, write to us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube with the AskSpeaky hashtag. Let's get in our experts for the day. Then we have Nirav Chheda of Nirmal Bang Securities and Amit Shah of Buck Capital Markets joining us on the show. Good morning to both of you, and thanks so much for taking the time out. Amit, I start with you. Markets looking precarious. Is this just another pause before we see further declines?
Good morning, Agam. So if we see the rally from 10,000 to 12,100, the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement is seen close to around 10,780 odd levels, and which was the yesterday's low. And market has showed some kind of respect, made some kind of a reversal on the candlestick pattern, and is attempting make a strong reversal, but still we are not seeing a convincing follow buying momentum at this point of time. But still, with Nifty 30 odd points positive, we need to keep in mind there are multiple hurdles in the upside considering the steepness in the fall what we have seen in the market. The FIs have been selling quite aggressively. So we have seen consistently over last 10 to 12 trading sessions where the market has failed to cross the previous day's high. So that would be an important indicator. If it sustains above that on a sustained basis, then possibility we can see some follow-up momentum. But to me, at this point of time, 10,780 to 10,700 will be the key support level. And on the upside, considering multiple resistances, 11,000 will be the immediate resistance, the psychological mark. If it sustains above that, or maybe a couple of hours more above that, then we can see some kind of a further pullback towards 11,150, where the another leg of resistance is seen.
Okay. All right. Well, Amit does have a strategy for the index, but before I go to him, I'm going to go to Nirav and ask him on his view as well and how he intends to play it. So, Nirav, good morning to you too. What's your view on the indices right now?
See, The overall view is still negative. Definitely, Nifty is headed lower toward from a medium-term perspective. I do believe Nifty can come down towards the 10,300, 200 odd levels, but that is a 3-month, 6-month picture. Now Nifty has already fallen, quite a bit from 11,500 odd, about 2 to 3 weeks. Generally, whenever such falls come, there is a pattern which happens on the PCR and the OI, which does suggest, there can be bounces on intraday basis. So, just looking at PCR, you look at PCR for the strike of 11,000 odd, 11,000 strike. Taking all the expiries into account, the PCR is above 1. And generally, when Nifty is about 200 points down, which is where we opened today, around 10,800, PCR being 1, there are bounces which come in on an intraday basis, of 150, 200 odd points. That is why, looking at this historical data, it has happened about 6 to 7 times in the last 7 years. And every time Nifty has witnessed a bounce. So even today in the morning, we've given a buy call, to our clients, and I believe Nifty is likely to go up towards the 11,000, 11,050 odd levels. Already 100 points up from morning. I still believe another 100 points is still in the offing, so one should go and buy Nifty with today's low as the stop loss, which would be around 10,830, and I believe 11,050 should come in probably by end of day or probably tomorrow. Also, looking at the broader picture, a lot of short covering, not really short covering, but profit booking, you can say, on the short. So technically it is short covering is what, we are seeing today. So not a lot of short built up we have seen in most of the large cap stocks, and that is a good sign. So overall, I do believe, today is a day where buying will come in.
Okay, all right. So, well, positive there as far as Nirav's concerned, at least in today's day of trade, he's expecting some buying to come in. But, well, moving back to Amit, he does have a long strangle. And before I go across to him, let me explain very quickly what it means. It is when one buys an out-of-the-money call and an out-of-the-money put in anticipation of increase in volatility, and the strategy becomes profitable when, well, your option premiums basically expand. So Amit, why don't you take us through why you are going long on a strangle?
Yeah. So if you see, this particular strategy can be deployed for this weekly expiry, which is this Thursday. Yeah. So I'm basically playing for 2 to 3 days time. Considering the intensity, as I mentioned in the market, where it has steepened, so the market has bent a lot. Yeah. So with this, always the volatility comes into the picture. And as I mentioned, the 10,780 being the critical mark, and it has taken some support. So with such of intensity, normally you tend to get a V-shaped recovery in case if it is happening, or in case if it breaks again 10,780, then the deepness can still be more seen on the on much deeper side, which can go towards 10,300 to 10,200 levels on the lower side. So I believe the volatility will play a major role now. In case if we have poised for a pullback, then 11,150 can be achievable in coming few days. And on the lower side, if it violates 10,780, then possibility of 10,500 can be much on the steeper side. So to deploy this, the overall collective premium for 10,900 call option and 10,800 put option is close to around 135 odd. I recommend with a stop loss of collective premium of close to 100 odd basis, 100 premium points. And in case if we violate these levels, one can consider to book profits.
Okay, all right. So there you have it. That's the long strangle as far as the Nifty is concerned. But let's move on and talk about stocks too. Nirav, what's looking good to you? Anything interesting?
In fact, I have one sell call and one buy call. See, I'll move to the sell call first. LIC Housing Finance, looking at the whole picture, it hasn't really fallen much, vis-a-vis the Nifty. From 550 odd levels only up to 500, 480 odd levels it has come down. But in this week, a very important thing that it has done is it has broken a weekly support, a trend line support, which does mean, it can fall another 5 to 10% from here. When I gave the call, it was around the 488, 490 odd level. levels. In the last 10 minutes, it has come down, which is a good sign. I believe it can come down further up to 460 or 440 odd levels. So one can look to sell on the futures at current levels with a stop loss of 502. The second one is a buy call on Equitas. If you look at Equitas overall, it has witnessed short covering after the results. It made a low around the 100 level. Some good buying has come in. I believe this stock can again, recover and move up to 115, 120 odd levels. So I do believe, one can be buying this stock with a stop loss of 100 and a possible target of 115.
Okay, well, Nirav, on that note, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us and speaking to us here on the various strategies on the indices as well as stocks. But moving on, among the few stocks that we want to address, right at the top is Berger Paints. Steady earnings coming through. And we do have a lot of traction coming in as far as the futures and options space, specifically futures is concerned, because we are looking at an increase in open interest. Of course, we are looking at earnings too, and low raw material costs have actually aided an expansion in gross margins for the company, which is why we are also seeing an increase as far as your EBITDA margins are concerned. Now, based on that, HSBC has raised its price target to 380 from 360, but that's on a fundamental basis. What about futures? And of course, futures, again, we are seeing a lot of traction, as I was mentioning. But Amit, how's this one looking on the charts, Berger Paints?
It's very strong. We have seen initial days of some short covering happening in the space. And if you see the open interest traction today, the open interest surged close to around 48% odd. And plus with a monthly breakout above 335. And I believe looking at the overall positioning on the monthly chart, the way it has showed a consolidation from close to 340 to 290 odd. With this breakout, I believe it will be a sustained breakout where we can see series of follow-up buying momentum. On the downside now, 335, 330 will act as a momentum support, and I believe looking at the broader structure, the stock is poised for a good 10 to 15% upside in medium term.
Okay, well, that's as far as Berger is concerned. But moving on, let's also address some of the stocks that are looking interesting for Amit. Amit, what stocks are you betting on today? You're actually, surprisingly short on Titan.
Yes, so I have one short idea and one long idea. So Titan, if you look at the open interest traction since the inception of the August series, the open interest has increased close to around 10% odd, and plus with the price fall. So that shows that there has been a decent amount of short additions which has already happened in the counter. And now if you look at slightly broader structure, the stock has made an inverted flag formation where since the correction from 1350 odd, the stock has been making a lower top, lower bottom formation with some consolidation. Again, the trend has started lower. So it has violated the key support of 1070 odd, and it has been sustaining below that over last couple of days. So the more it sustains below the mark, this mark, I believe there is another leg of fall which can be seen in the space, where on the downside 980 to 960 levels can be tested, and on the upside one can keep a stop of close to around 1060 odd.
Okay.
I have another recommendation, which is a buy on Tata Global. Now, this stock has seen a very strong surge in the open interest since the August inception. The open interest has increased close to around 35% odd, and even today we are seeing some traction of 5.5% odd on the rise in the open interest. The stock has been holding quite firm around 250, 245 odd mark, and has reversed from those levels on a couple of times in last couple of months. So I believe on the downside it has a very good support around 262, 260 odd levels. The more it sustains above that, I feel the stock is poised for another leg of up move towards 285 to 290.
Okay, so there you have it, one long, one short. Of course, Amit's already spoken about Titan, and we are expecting earnings today. We will also be chatting with the management tomorrow about, we already know that it's going to be a relatively moderate quarter for jewelry sales as indicated in the quarterly update. But moving on, let's also take a look at SRF. This is the other one which is very interesting. And of course, this one is in the chemical packaging sector. And we've actually seen sluggish growth in textiles, but otherwise, if you leave that aside, we've actually seen substantial pickup in some of your other segments for SRF. And again, we'll be watching out for how this company eventually pans out. But for now, it's looking at 11% gain on the underlying. So there's a lot of strength there, and there's a possibility that with today's up move, it may have very well changed and move above certain variables on a technical basis. Amit, is that the case? Is this looking very strong now?
Yes, so if you look at the kind of a reversal, what it has showed, the stock had witnessed a fall from 3100 odd to almost 2600 odd since July series odd. And the way on a gap up note, it has started with a good increase in the open interest. This reversal looks sustainable, where on the downside now it will hold a very good support around 2780 odd. So the more it sustains above that, I feel there can be a good follow-up momentum, where on the upside it can retest towards 3000 to 3100 levels on the higher side.
Okay. All right. And let's also very quickly talk about Interglobe Aviation. Now, as far as fundamentals go and the news flow is concerned, we still have complaints from Rakesh Gangwal on the conditions. Well, he has suggested that the issues raised by him, between him and the other co-promoter, have not yet been resolved. Of course, there are several other complications in this case, and well, without further going into more detail, well, you know, this of course is causing a little bit of volatility, but we also intend to take a look at how the futures and options space is panning out. So let's pull that up as well. Let's take a look at how the futures are coming through. And well, the open interest has increased 15%. So there is selling pressure, if one could call it that. The stock's declining by around 2%. And this is actually, you know, a lot of traders have started to take bets on the long side or the short side in Interglobe Aviation. So it's become a little more liquid as, you know, something which moves in futures of late. Amit, what's your view here? What are the charts telling you?
See, as per the charts, it's completely avoid, either on the long or on the short side. It's completely turned sideways after the today's fall. So on the downside, till the time it is not violating 1400 mark, and on the upside, till the time it is not crossing 1580 odd levels, I feel it's a void. Till the time it does not violate these levels, I believe it is more of a time consolidation which the stock can see.
Okay, and I think we can, on that note, we can finally move on to queries. We don't have too many, but among the few, we have one from Girish Kumar on Facebook, and he wants a view on Power Grid. He has a short position at 212 on Power Grid. He has two shorts, in fact. Let's pull up and see how Power Grid has done of late in the past, well, perhaps few months. We can get a better idea if we can actually have the 3-month you know, picture on Power Grid. So, okay, that's 1 month. It's not done too much, even though it has corrected in the last 1 week or so. And that is also evident in the last 3 months, because it's actually gained. And had it not been for the correction that is seen in the last 1 odd week, it would have been up much more. So it's up for as much as 4-5% on a 3-month basis. Amit, so he does have shorts at 212. He's clearly sitting on a profit right now. Would you ask him to book profits or trail stop losses?
Well, I would just like to add the level at which he shot. I recommended a buy at this level, considering it was a breakout point. And the way it has reversed in last couple of days, definitely the stock has given a false kind of a breakout. So I would say the level has been amazing. It's taken the topmost consolidation point at 212 and very much in the profits. But if you look at the broader structure, the stock is positive, and from last couple of series we are seeing a good traction of rollovers which is happening. So I would recommend to trail the stop loss close to around 202. That's where the resistance is capped at. If it crosses 202, he should consider to book profits. Otherwise, there is still room where on the downside 194 to 192 levels can be tested.
Okay. All right, we have another query on Tata Motors on Facebook. It's from Shyam Sundar Chaudhary. It seems like it's a fundamental query because it's kind of long term. Shyam Sundar wants to know, should I average Tata Motors? So I'm assuming that Shyam Sundar is already in the stock, and I'm also assuming that, well, it's seen a severe correction, wants to know whether or not he could buy into this one. Well, you know, let's just go with the take, your reading on Tata Motors in general, Amit. What do you see here?
Well, even if you look at the charts on a longer term perspective, it is more like a hope which one will keep on keeping since the time the stock has been correcting from 350 odd levels. It has been making series of lower top, lower bottom formation. So I would not see more of a strength It is just more of a person asking for just to average his position.
Right.
But unless and until you don't see the strength in the particular counter, I feel every average would just be just parking your money to something which is not showing any actionables.
Right.
So I would be not more of a theory of buying on dips kind of for the stocks which are not showing any strength. It's an avoid to me.
Okay, fair enough. There you have it. That's what Amit has said. It's an avoid. Tata Motors is an avoid if you want to go long on it. Well, let's quickly revisit how the markets are looking, and much better as compared to half an hour ago, because the Nifty is now up as nearly 0.5%. It's well firmly above the mark of 10,900, pardon me, and we're seeing gains in the Sensex too. To the same tune, nearly the same tune. Now, in terms of some of the big movers, and at least as far as the indices are concerned, well, we do see gains in something like an Indiabulls Housing Finance, of course, ahead of earnings. Yes Bank is seeing a little bit of recovery, though this is after a significant weakness that we've seen in the company. Coal India, Dr. Reddy's, and Grasim also moving, higher. But on the losing end, we have some weakness in Z Entertainment, that's down 2.8%, and Wipro is declining by around 1%. But besides these two stocks, we don't have too much in terms of weakness. But in fact, all the other stocks besides these are losing less than 1% for now. So that, of course, is a positive. But, well, of course, we'll have to wait and watch for more cues to come in to see whether or not this is actually just a pause before we actually see some more weakness, or can we see a turnaround from these levels. Well, on that note, I'm going to take a moment to thank Amit for also joining us and taking us through his views and solving some of our viewer queries. For more updates on the F&O space, you can also check our website, bloombergquint.com, specifically the futures and options pages. And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of the F&O show. But for more news and updates, stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint Live.